Before we dive in, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with your friends and family. Also, let me know in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is for you. Thanks. I never thought a store like Costco could make my skin crawl. It's supposed to be the safest place in town. Bright lights, security cameras, friendly cashiers, free samples of pizza rolls. But that night, it felt like a different world. Had finished work late and stopped by to grab a few things, bottled water, paper towels, and some dog food. It was one of those cold November evenings where the air stings your lungs when you breathe in. The parking lot was almost empty, just a handful of cars scattered under the yellow glow of the lamps. I remember thinking how unusually quiet it was. Me, no carts clanging, no kids running around, no chatter. Just wind. Inside, the store was half lit for closing. The hum of the fluorescent lights echoed through the cavernous aisles. I pulled my jacket tighter and grabbed a cart, its wheels squealing with every turn. "Evening," the greeter said, barely looking up from his phone. "Hey," I muttered, flashing my membership card. I wasn't nervous then, not yet, just tired. I took my usual route, produce first, then household, then over to aisle 14 where they kept the snacks. My routine never changed, but that's what made me notice him. At first, I thought he was just another late shopper, mid-50s maybe. Messy gray beard, dark jacket, baseball cap pulled low. Something about the way he moved, slow, deliberate, set me on edge. He wasn't pushing a cart. He wasn't holding anything, just walking. Every time I turned down a new aisle, a few seconds later, there he was. I told myself not to overthink it. People crisscross in stores all the time. But then I realized something. He wasn't shopping. He didn't even glance at the shelves. His eyes were fixed ahead. On me. I pretended to check my phone, using the reflection in the screen to peek. Behind me. He was standing at the end of the aisle, not moving, just watching. My stomach tightened. I tried to brush it off, grabbing a pack of granola bars and heading for another section. The sound of my squeaky wheel filled the silence, when I glanced up again and there he was, standing halfway down the next aisle. Same distance, same stare. Okay, this is weird, I whispered to myself. I pulled out my phone and opened my contacts. My boyfriend Jake was out of town for work, but I texted anyway. Me. "Hey, there's this guy following me around Costco. It's probably nothing, but it's freaking me out." No reply. I slipped the phone back into my pocket and forced a laugh. Maybe I was imagining it. Maybe he was just one of those people with a resting murder face. Still, I changed direction. Instead of going to checkout, I headed toward the back freezer section, where the cameras always were. The sound of the man's shoes echoed faintly somewhere behind me. I didn't turn around. I stopped at one of the glass freezers, pretending to compare brands of frozen pizza. My reflection shimmered in the frosty glass. For a moment, nothing, just the reflection of aisles and boxes. Then I saw it. Movement. A figure standing behind me, still as a statue. I spun around. The aisle was empty. I let out a shaky breath, my pulse hammering in my throat. "Jesus, get a grip," I muttered. "You're losing it." A female voice startled me from behind. "You okay, hun?" It was one of the employees. Short woman, maybe in her 40s, wearing a red vest. Her name tag read Lena. I nodded quickly. "Yeah, just thought I saw someone." She frowned. "Weird night. One of the guys in receiving said some dude's been pacing around the back lot for an hour." My heart skipped. "What kind of guy?" She shrugged. "Didn't say. Probably homeless. Happens sometimes." I forced a smile. "Right, yeah, probably that." She gave me a reassuring pat on the arm before walking off. I wanted to follow her, but my pride kept me in place. I just wanted to finish my shopping and leave. I grabbed my stuff, hurried to the registers, and checked out. The cashier, a young guy with earbuds dangling from his ears, mumbled, "Have a good night," without looking up. Outside, the air was freezing. My breath came out in white clouds. The parking lot was nearly empty, just my car sitting at the far end under a flickering light. The silence pressed in. I pushed my cart faster, wheels rattling against the pavement. My keys were ready in my hand, the little metal keychain jingling, nervously. Then I heard it. Footsteps. Behind me. Slow, crunching on the asphalt. I turned. Nothing. The automatic doors hissed closed behind me, trapping the last bits of light from the store. Everything beyond that was dark. I swallowed hard and kept walking. My car beeped as I hit unlock and I started tossing my bags into the trunk. The hairs on my arms stood up before I even saw him. The reflection in my car window showed a shadow, standing just behind me. I spun around so fast I dropped my keys. "Hey, what the hell do you want?" It was him. The same man from the aisles. Same jacket, same dead stare. He didn't speak, just took one step closer. "Back off," I said, my voice shaking. He smiled, or at least, his lips moved in something that looked like one. Then, from the corner of my eye, I saw headlights. A dark SUV rolled up quietly, stopping just behind me. A second man was in the driver's seat. The first guy lunged. I screamed, swinging my purse at him. He grabbed my arm, his grip like iron. I kicked wildly, managing to hit his shin, and he let out a low grunt but didn't let go. "Get in the car," he hissed, his voice gravelly and calm, too calm. "Help! Somebody help!" I yelled, twisting and shoving. The driver stepped out now, running around to the side. My mind raced. I remembered my car alarm. My thumb slammed the panic button. The siren exploded through the lot, blaring, echoing. The man cursed and shoved me backward. I stumbled, hit the ground hard. My palms scraped against the pavement. The SUV screeched as the driver jumped back in. They were trying to peel out, but something in me snapped. I lunged forward, grabbing onto the handle of the passenger door. My fingers slipped, caught, and I was being dragged, my knees scraping the asphalt. "Let go, bitch," one of them yelled, but I didn't. Not until the pain became unbearable. My grip broke and I rolled onto the ground, vision spinning, sirens still blaring. I heard shouting, voices. A couple coming out of the store saw what was happening. One of them yelled, "Call 911." The SUV tore away, tires screaming as it disappeared into the night. I lay there shaking, blood mixing with grit on my hands and legs. The cold bit into me like knives. Someone crouched beside me. Hey, don't move, okay? You're safe, cops are coming." I wanted to say something, but the world tilted and went black. When I woke up, everything was white. Hospital white. My throat was dry, my body sore. An IV ran into my arm. The steady beep of a monitor filled the silence. A police officer stood near the foot of my bed. "You're lucky to be alive," he said. I blinked at him, my voice weak. "Did you catch them?" He nodded slowly. "Yeah, we got them both. The one who grabbed you, name's Rick Hanlon. Been stalking women around the store for weeks. His partner drove the getaway car. Security footage caught everything." I just stared, numb. The officer hesitated before adding, "You fought, back hard. That's probably what saved you." Later, one of the nurses told me the suspects were caught the same night, thanks to the Costco cameras and the car's license plate. Both men had been watching shoppers, mostly women alone, waiting for someone they could isolate. The thought made my stomach turn. I was released 3 days later. My knees were wrapped in bandages, and my palms stung with every movement. But the worst part wasn't the pain. It was the silence that followed. Every time I parked somewhere alone, every time I heard footsteps behind me, even now, months later, I can't shake it. Last week I stopped by a different Costco. Daylight, packed crowd, everything safe and normal, but as I walked down an aisle I felt that familiar prickle on the back of my neck. Just a random guy pushing a cart, looking my way. Probably nothing, but I still found myself gripping my keys a little tighter. Because once you've been watched, truly watched, that feeling never really leaves you. You start realizing the truth people don't like to admit. The scariest monsters aren't hiding in the dark. They're standing right next to you under bright fluorescent lights. I never thought a trip to Costco could change the way I looked at people forever. My name's Laura Jensen, 32, from Spokane, Washington. I live alone in a one-bedroom apartment near Division Street, and Friday evenings used to be my little ritual: Costco, takeout, and a quiet night in. I'd get my groceries, grab a rotisserie chicken, maybe a bottle of wine, and call it a week. I liked the routine. It made me feel safe, grounded. That night, though, November 10th, it didn't feel safe at all. It was already dark when I pulled into the Costco parking lot around 8:30. The air was cold, the kind that stings your face when you breathe. The parking lot lights hummed overhead, that weird electric buzz that sounds like static on an old TV. There were maybe a dozen cars left, way fewer than usual. Inside, the place looked normal enough. Families checking out, a few people in the bakery section, some guy sampling cheese like it was fine dining. I nodded to the greeter. Old guy named Ron, always called me Miss Sunshine. "Evenin', Laura," he said, scanning my card. "Bit late for your usual run, huh?" "Yeah," I laughed. "Work kept me late. Guess I'm one of the last-minute shoppers tonight." He smiled, but there was something tired in his eyes. "Be careful out there, roads get slick after dark." "I will." I didn't think much of it then. The store felt quieter than usual. No background chatter, no laughter from the sample tables, just the echo of carts and the buzz of the lights. It was almost peaceful in a weird way. I walked my usual route, aisle 7 for toiletries, 10 for snacks, 23 for frozen meals. I didn't even look at my list. My body knew the routine better than my mind did. As I turned into the paper goods aisle, though, I noticed someone, a man, maybe late 30s, wearing a dark hoodie and a baseball cap, standing perfectly still at the end of the aisle. He wasn't shopping. No cart, no basket, no product in hand. He just stood there. When I pushed my cart past, he looked up, straight at me. I smiled politely, the way women do when they're trying to appear unbothered. "Excuse me," I said softly as I rolled by. He didn't move, didn't blink, just stared. I brushed it off. Maybe he was waiting for someone. Maybe I was reading too much into it. But as I moved through the store, I kept catching glimpses of him, turning into the same aisles I did, stopping when I stopped, always a few rows behind. By the time I reached checkout, my nerves were on edge. The cashier, a young guy named Tyler, scanned my stuff and made small talk about the Seahawks game. I forced a smile, barely listening. When I glanced toward the exit, the man in the hoodie stood by the tire center, half hidden behind a column. He wasn't buying anything. He wasn't leaving. I told myself, "You're imagining it. He's just another shopper." I packed up my cart and pushed toward the exit. Ron was gone. The greeter stand was empty now. Outside, the cold hit me harder than before. The lot was nearly empty, just a few cars scattered under the dim yellow lights. My SUV sat 3 rows down, far from the building. I usually parked closer, but the lot had been packed when I'd arrived. Halfway to my car, I heard it. Footsteps, slow, crunching against the asphalt. I glanced back, nothing. But then, in the reflection of a parked car's window, I saw him. The man from the store. He was walking behind me. My pulse kicked up. I sped up a little, pretending to scroll through my phone. My hands shook as I tried to act casual. By the time I reached my SUV, I could hear him breathing, close enough that it didn't feel like coincidence anymore. I fumbled for my keys, dropped them once, cursed under my breath, and finally hit the unlock button. The headlights blinked. I threw my bags into the back seat, slammed the door, and jumped into the driver's seat. Lock doors. Start engine. Breathe. The headlights caught him as he passed behind my car. He didn't look at me. Just kept walking. Relief rushed through me so fast I almost laughed. Maybe he was just heading to his own car. But as I backed out and looked into my rearview mirror, I saw him again. He wasn't walking anymore. He was standing at the edge of the lot, watching me. I pulled onto the main road, my hands gripping, the wheel so tight my knuckles hurt. I turned onto Francis Avenue, heading east toward home. A minute later, a pair of headlights appeared behind me. At first, I didn't think much of it. But then the car made every turn I made, onto Lidgerwood, then into the residential stretch near the park. I slowed down. So did he. I changed lanes. So did he. A chill ran through my body. No, 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 I whispered, my voice shaking. I took a sharp right turn, pretending I was pulling into my friend's driveway. The car behind me slowed and stopped at the corner. Engine running, lights on. He was waiting. I could barely breathe. My heart pounded against my ribs. I threw the car into drive and sped off toward the main road. My phone was slippery in my shaking hands as I dialed 911. 911, what's your emergency? My name's Laura Jensen. I think I'm being followed. There's a car, gray sedan, been behind me since Costco. Are you in a safe location? Ma'am? I don't know. I'm driving right now. He's still behind me. Stay on the line. Do you see any landmarks? There's a gas station up ahead. North Hill Chevron. Okay, pull in there. Keep your doors locked and officers en route. I pulled into the gas station, parked near the entrance under the bright lights, and locked the doors. My breathing came in short gasps. The gray sedan passed by, then slowed down. He pulled into the street across from me and just sat there, engine idling. The dispatcher kept talking, her voice calm. Laura, officers are 3 minutes out. Do not get out of your vehicle. Okay, I whispered, tears stinging my eyes. He's still there. Oh God, he's just watching me. Then, as if he knew, the sedan's headlights flicked off. I could barely make out his silhouette inside, just a shadow staring back at me. Those 3 minutes felt like an eternity. Then, finally, red and blue lights flashed across the street. The sedan's engine roared to life and he took off down the road before the cops could reach him. 2 police cars pulled into the lot, lights spinning. I rolled my window down, still crying. Ma'am, are you okay? One of the officers asked. Yeah, I think so. He's gone now. They took my statement, wrote down the description. Gray Honda Civic, out-of-state plates, male, mid-30s, possibly brown hair. Could be nothing, the officer said, trying to sound reassuring. But you did the right thing calling us. They offered to follow me home. I agreed. I wish I could say that was the end of it. For a while it was. Days went by. I told myself it was just some creep. Maybe a misunderstanding. I even joked about it at work, pretending it didn't still make me double-check my locks. Every night. Then one evening the next week I was taking out the trash at my apartment complex. It was around 9:30. Cold. Quiet. When I came back, there was a folded piece of paper wedged under my windshield wiper. It read, "Next time, don't call the cops. No signature, just that sentence." My hands went numb. I ran inside, locked every door, called the police again. They took the note, filed a report, said they'd increase patrols in the area, but there wasn't much they could do. That night, I barely slept. Every sound outside made my heart jump. Around 3 a.m., I woke to a soft tapping noise. Tap, tap, tap. It came from my living room window. I froze in bed, too afraid to move. Tap, tap. Then a whisper, so faint I almost thought I imagined it. Miss Sunshine, that's what Ron used to call me. I bolted out of bed, grabbed my phone, and dialed 911 again. The dispatcher answered, but before I could speak, I heard footsteps outside my apartment. Slow, deliberate, moving away. By the time the police arrived, whoever it was had vanished. They found faint footprints in the frost under my window. I moved out 2 weeks later. I couldn't stay there. I don't go to that Costco anymore. In fact, I haven't been to any Costco since. I can't even drive past one without my chest tightening, my hands trembling. Sometimes late at night I still wake up thinking I hear tapping on the glass. And every time I wonder, was it the man in the hoodie or someone else who saw me that night and decided to finish what he started? I never thought I'd be scared of a place like Costco, but that changed the night I worked there alone. It started like any other evening in Springfield, Ohio. Rain tapping against my windshield, neon signs reflecting off puddles in the parking lot. I parked my old Chevy, grabbed my thermos, and clocked in at 10:56 p.m. sharp. Overnights weren't bad once you got used to the quiet. My name's Ryan Keller, 28 years old, part-time warehouse stocker, full-time guy trying to stay afloat. My mom's health bills had piled up, so I took whatever shift they offered. Didn't matter if it was midnight to morning. Costco paid decent, the benefits were good, and I liked the silence after hours. There were usually 4 or 5 of us on night shift, but that night 2 people called out. My supervisor, Mark, left early with food poisoning, leaving just me and Ellen, the janitor. She was in her 60s, sweet lady with a smoker's laugh and a radio that only played old country songs. Around midnight, she said she was heading home. Early, her sister had called something about a gas leak in her neighborhood. She apologized, said she'd make it up to me. I told her, "It's fine, Ellen, I'll handle it." She smiled, grabbed her mop bucket, and left through the side exit. So there I was, alone in a 140,000 square foot warehouse at midnight. The first hour was peaceful. Just me, the sound of a pallet jack rolling, and the faint hum of the refrigerators down aisle 19. I had my earbuds in, some lo-fi playlist playing. But around 12:47 a.m., I heard something strange. A click. Then a shuffle. I pulled out my earbuds. Silence. Then again, a soft dragging noise like rubber soles scuffing concrete. I called out, "Mark, that you?" Nothing. The store was closed, doors locked, alarms on. No reason anyone should be walking around. I told myself it was probably the air system or maybe a loose cart rolling somewhere. Still, I grabbed my flashlight and started checking the aisles. Nothing out of place until I reached aisle 22 near the jewelry section. One of the display lights was flickering, and right beneath it, on the counter glass, there were fingerprints, fresh ones smudged like someone had been leaning close to the case. My stomach did a small flip. I wiped them off with my sleeve, muttering, "Probably just Ellen." But Ellen never went near the jewelry counter. About 20 minutes later, I heard it again, this time coming from the front registers. A beep, then another, like someone was scanning items. I froze. The scanner shouldn't even work after. Closing. The system shuts down at 10:30 p.m. automatically. "Hello?" I called. No answer. My boots echoed as I walked toward the front. The lights flickered once overhead, casting everything in this weird strobe. Shadows stretching long, shrinking, stretching again. When I reached the registers, I stopped cold. On register 3, the screen was glowing blue, and sitting right next to it was a diamond ring. It wasn't in a box or on a display, it was just lying there on the conveyor belt like someone had left it while checking out. I picked it up. It was heavy, solid, cool against my skin. Inside the band, I saw a tiny engraving. For L. I didn't recognize it from the inventory. Jewelry was locked in cases, and this ring looked old, handmade almost. Must have been misplaced, I muttered. I dropped it in the lost and found drawer by the service desk and turned back toward the aisles. That's when I saw movement in the freezer door reflection. Someone standing behind me. I spun around, empty. I told myself to chill. It was just fatigue, maybe the caffeine crash. But when I walked past the TVs and electronics, every single screen flickered on for half a second, showing static, then a blurry image of the jewelry counter. On the feed, a woman stood there, mid-40s, wearing a dark coat, her hair covering most of her face. She lifted her hand toward the glass and I saw it, the same ring, gleaming under the store lights. Then the feed cut to black. "Okay, no," I whispered. I checked the power panel, thinking maybe the generator was acting up, but the cameras were running fine. When I looked back at the monitors, the woman was gone. My walkie crackled suddenly, making me jump. "Ryan." A woman's voice, soft, calm. "You shouldn't have taken it." I froze. "Who is this?" "No." Reply, just static, then faintly, Put it back, my throat went dry. What did you just say? Static again. Then a sharp pop, like a blown fuse, and the line went dead. A crash echoed from aisle 9. I ran toward the sound, heart pounding. A display of wine bottles had fallen, glass everywhere. But the weird part? They'd fallen in a straight line like something had brushed past. The air smelled metallic, like pennies and bleach. I started back toward the front, but every step I took echoed wrong, just slightly delayed, like there was another set of footsteps half a beat behind mine. "Hey," I shouted, trying to sound braver than I felt. "This is private property. You can't be here." Silence, then from the far end of the aisle, a woman's laugh, low, throaty, and close. Too close. My flashlight flickered as I raised it, and there she was. She stood maybe 30 feet, away between stacks of paper towels. Pale face, long dark hair, wearing that same coat from the video feed. Her eyes looked cloudy, unfocused. She smiled when our eyes met. Who are you?" I stammered. "You have something of mine," she said. Her voice sounded distorted, like a radio between stations. "I put it away," I told her. "It's in the drawer up front, I swear." Her smile widened. The overhead lights dimmed. "Then why do I still feel it?" I turned and ran. The emergency lights kicked in, flashing red. The entire store looked like a nightmare movie set. Aisles stretching endlessly under pulsing light. Every few seconds I'd glimpse her reflection in random places. Glass doors, shiny tile, even on the metallic surface of a fridge. Always smiling. Always watching. When I reached the service desk, I yanked open the drawer. The ring was gone. I backed away slowly. "Okay," I whispered. "You can have it. Just stop." The intercom buzzed overhead, then clicked on by itself. Her voice came through again, calm and echoing across the empty warehouse. "Put it on." I shook my head, backing toward the exit. The automatic doors wouldn't open. They just kept making that thunk, thunk, thunk sound like they were trying but couldn't. I turned around. She was standing by the jewelry counter again, the same smile, the same ring on her hand. Only now, it was blackened, like burned silver. "Do you know what happens when you take what's not yours?" she asked. Her voice didn't echo. It slid under my skin. The lights above flickered wildly one after another. For a second I saw movement behind her. Shapes, faint outlines of people. Dozens of them. Faces pale, mouths twisted in silent. Screams. They all whispered together, voices blending into a hiss. "Put it back!" I dropped to my knees, covering my ears, shouting, "It's gone! It's gone!" Then, silence. When I opened my eyes, the store lights were steady again. The air was cold but still. The woman was gone. The only sound was the hum of the freezers and my own breathing. I stumbled outside somehow. Don't even remember unlocking the door. The security guards found me sitting by the carts around 4 a.m., staring at the parking lot. They said I looked like I'd seen a ghost. Maybe I had. The next day, management called me in. Said the cameras caught something strange. For about 10 minutes, all the footage glitched. When it came back, I was the only one on screen. Running around, yelling at empty aisles, they sent me home with paid leave. 2 days later, they replaced every jewelry lock and sealed the lost and found drawer. The store manager said it was just a system error. But sometimes when I drive past Costco at night, I still see the flicker of that one light above the jewelry counter. And once, just once, when I walked inside during my next shift, I saw a ring sitting behind the glass. Same engraving. 4EIL. The clerk said it wasn't in the inventory. No one had logged it. I asked to transfer to day shift. Haven't worked nights since. Still, sometimes when I walk past that counter, I swear I feel someone breathing behind me, and every now and then. Then when the lights flicker, I hear a voice whisper real close. Playful, almost kind. I never thought a place like Costco could feel haunted. Not by ghosts, but by silence. It was 3 a.m. on a Wednesday, restock shift. Most people never see Costco at that hour. The fluorescent lights hum differently when there are no customers. The air feels thick, almost stale. like it's been sitting there since closing time. I'd been working nights for nearly 2 years. It paid the bills and let me stay invisible, exactly how I liked it. My name's Ryan, and I worked inventory in a small town outside Pittsburgh. Not the kind of place where weird stuff happens. At least, that's what I used to think. That night started like any other. I clocked in, grabbed my box cutter, and met up with Janine, our floor supervisor. She was short, sharp-tongued, and caffeine-powered, the type who could juggle 6 pallets at once and still complain she was bored. "Morning, Rye," she said, handing me a clipboard. "Jewelry counter needs a count update before open. B. Careful with the glass, last week's guy cracked one of the cases." I nodded. "You got it." The jewelry section was near the front, bright, polished, too fancy for my liking. It always looked out of place next to bulk peanut butter and car tires. The diamonds sparkled under the white lights, tiny stars trapped in cubes of glass. I used to joke that if Costco ever got haunted, it would start here. I didn't know I'd be right. The shift dragged on. The others were stocking meat and paper goods, but I liked the quiet at the jewelry counter. I could hear the subtle hum of the coolers, the occasional squeak of a cartwheel. Peaceful, almost meditative. That's when I saw her. At first, I thought it was a reflection, a flicker of movement in the glass. But then I realized someone was standing at the far end of the aisle. A woman. She wasn't supposed to be there. The store had been closed for hours, doors locked, cameras on. I froze. "Hey, ma'am," I called, my voice shaky. "We're closed." No answer. She stood still, half in shadow, wearing what looked like a tan trench coat and heels. Way too dressed up for this place. Her head was tilted slightly, her hair covering her face. "Ma'am, you can't be here," I said again, stepping closer. That's when the lights above aisle 12 flickered. A soft buzz, then a sharp click, click, click. The overhead bulbs blinked out for half a second, and when they came back on, she was gone. I stood there, heart pounding. My mind scrambled for logic. Maybe she was a cleaning staffer? No, janitors wore uniforms. Maybe someone from the early shift came in early? No, still too soon. I walked the aisles, checking corners, nothing, empty. "Janine," I said into my walkie, trying to sound calm. "You copy?" "Yeah." "What's up? Did anyone else come in tonight?" "Female, maybe in her 40s. She paused. "Not that I know of." "Why?" "I thought I saw someone near jewelry." She sighed. "You've been pulling doubles again, haven't you? You're probably seeing shadows. Go grab a Red Bull from the break room before you pass out." I laughed it off, but my hands were still trembling. Maybe she was right. Maybe I was just tired, but the cameras didn't think so. Around 4 a.m., I went to the back office to check inventory logs. The security monitor was on. One of the overnight guards, Eddie, had fallen asleep in front of it. The screen showed every corner of the store, aisles, docks, entrances. Then something caught my eye. Camera 3, jewelry section. There she was again, standing perfectly still in front of the glass case, head bowed slightly, as if she was staring at something. "Eddie," I said, shaking his shoulder. "Wake up, man." He jolted awake. "Huh, what?" "Look," I pointed at the monitor. He rubbed his eyes. "There's nobody there, dude." "What do you mean? She's right." I blinked. The feed glitched. A line of static ran across it, and when the picture cleared, the woman was gone. My mouth went dry. "Jesus," Eddie muttered. "You need to sleep, bro." But I couldn't. Not after what I'd seen. I went back out there. The jewelry counter looked the same. Neat, spotless, untouched. But when I leaned down to check the locks, I saw a faint fingerprint on the inside of the glass. Inside. I ran my thumb across it, but the smudge didn't come off. It was under the surface, almost like it had been pressed there before the case was sealed. Something about it made my stomach twist. The next few nights got worse. First, it was small things. Jewelry displays slightly moved, cases unlocked, the sound of heels clicking on tile when I knew I was alone. Then came the whispers, faint, almost drowned out by the hum of the refrigeration units. "Ryan," I heard it once while scanning barcodes near aisle 9. I dropped the scanner and turned around so fast I nearly tripped over a pallet. Who's there? Nothing. Just silence. The kind that fills every inch of a warehouse and makes you feel microscopic. I told Janine, but she just smirked. You're spooking yourself. Tell Eddie to quit pranking you. Eddie swore he hadn't done anything. Man, I'm too lazy to prank people, he said. You think I'm walking all the way to jewelry just to mess with you? I tried to laugh, but I could see the unease in his eyes. Friday night, my last shift of the week. The store felt colder than usual. Even the lights seemed dimmer, like someone had turned down the brightness. Around 2:30, I noticed something odd on the display camera feed again, the jewelry case. Camera 3. A faint figure moving behind the counter, not in front. Behind. I ran. When I got there, the woman was standing exactly where I'd seen her the first time, this time facing me directly. Pale skin, red lipstick smeared, like she'd been crying, and those same tan heels. Ma'am, I said, breath shaky, you're not supposed to be here. She tilted her head. I'm just looking. Her voice was soft, almost too soft, like it came from somewhere far away. You can look in the morning, I said, stepping closer. Right now the store's closed. I know, she whispered, but he promised me one. Who did? She smiled faintly. My husband. He said he'd buy me something beautiful. My throat went dry. Okay, maybe you should wait outside, I can... Then she slammed her hand on the glass. The sound echoed down the aisles. The ring display inside rattled violently, like someone had kicked the counter from the inside. I stumbled back. What the hell? When I looked again, she was gone. Just gone. But the fingerprint was back. Fresh this time. I didn't sleep that morning. I went home, locked my doors, and tried to shake it off. Maybe stress, maybe hallucination. But I couldn't stop thinking about what she said. He promised me one. The next day I came in early and checked the incident logs. There was something buried in the archives, a report from 5 years ago. A woman had died in that exact section. Heart attack, collapsed while trying on a diamond ring. Paramedics couldn't save her. Her name, Linda Mae Carter. Her husband never came to pick up the ring she was holding. I stared at the report, my skin crawling. That night I almost didn't show up. But I needed the paycheck. When I got there, Janine was waiting with a strange look on her face. You're not going to believe this, she said, handing me a clipboard. One of the rings went missing. My stomach dropped. Which one? The $24,000 diamond. We checked the cameras, no break-ins, no tampering, just gone. I felt my heart pounding in my ears. I knew exactly which ring she meant. I walked to the jewelry counter. The empty slot sat there like a missing tooth, and right in the middle of the glass, faint but visible, was that same smudge, shaped like a handprint. As I leaned closer, my reflection warped. For a moment, I didn't see my own face. I saw hers, pale, hollow-eyed, staring back with a sad smile. The store lights flickered. Ryan. Her voice was behind me this time, close enough that I felt her breath on my neck. I turned slowly. Nothing. Just the aisle stretching into the dark, then the intercom crackled. Customer assistance to jewelry, it said in a distorted, mechanical voice. Customer assistance to jewelry. Except no one was at the control booth. I grabbed my walkie. Janine, did you? Static. And then, faintly, through the radio, he promised me one. The words made my knees weak. I backed away until my legs hit a pallet. My heart was hammering so loud it drowned out everything else. The cases around me began to shake, softly at first, then violently. Glass cracked. Lights buzzed and popped overhead. Then just as suddenly it stopped. Silence. The lights stabilized. The hum of the store returned. The missing ring was sitting on the counter. Perfectly still. But when I leaned down, I saw something that made my blood run cold. Inside the diamond, tiny, almost invisible, was a reflection. Not of the lights above, not of me. Of her. Smiling. They say jewelry holds energy. Emotions, memories, moments. I used to laugh at that. Not anymore. I quit the next morning. Packed up, moved 2 states over. I told them I couldn't handle night shifts anymore, but the truth is, I couldn't handle seeing that reflection again. Every once in a while I'd dream of her, standing in the aisles, still waiting for the ring her husband never bought. And sometimes when I walk past a jewelry store window, I swear I see a pale handprint pressed against the glass, right on the inside. I never thought a place like Costco could mess with my head. People always imagine big box stores as harmless. Bright lights, smiling cashiers, endless shelves of snacks and toilet paper. But when the customers leave, and that last cart squeaks, out of the door the building changes. It feels hollow, like something's still watching you from the corners you can't see. My name's Elena Price. I'm 32, and I started working nights at a Costco just outside Boise, Idaho last December. After my dad passed, I needed something stable, something to keep my mind from spiraling. I didn't care that the pay wasn't great or that the hours were brutal. Nights were quiet, peaceful. That's what I told myself. At first it was. Every shift was the same. Unload trucks, cut open boxes, stock the shelves until sunrise. There were only 5 of us overnight. Me, Noah, our shift lead, Kayla, Ben, and Rick, the guy who ran maintenance and pretended to hate everyone. No music was allowed on the floor, safety policy, they said, so we talked to pass the time. Usually stupid stuff. TikToks, weird customers, Ben's conspiracy theories. I liked that rhythm. It kept me from thinking too much about home. But something started to change about a month ago. It began small, just noises that didn't fit. First time I was restocking cereal at around 2:15 a.m. The place was dead silent except for the buzz of the overhead lights. Then I heard a cart moving 2 aisles over, a slow, deliberate roll, like someone was pushing it without trying to hide it. I peeked around the corner. Nothing, just an empty aisle, neat as a catalog photo. I shrugged it off. Maybe Kayla left her cart there. But when I went back to my section, I noticed all the cereal boxes I'd just lined up were slightly crooked, like someone had run their hand along the shelf. I fixed them, feeling stupid for even caring. But when I turned to grab another box, I caught a reflection in the polished floor, a shadow moving behind me. When I spun around, there was no one there. The next morning, during our break, I told Noah about it. He laughed and said, "You been breathing that detergent too long, Price?" I tried to laugh with him, but I didn't. That night, I came in early, hoping the unease would fade if I faced it head on. It didn't. Around 3 a.m., the overhead speakers crackled. At first, I thought it was the intercom glitching again. It did that sometimes when the system rebooted, but then I heard it. Faint breathing. Slow. Deep. I froze. Then, through the, static, a voice whispered, so soft I thought I imagined it. "Elena." My stomach dropped. I ripped my radio from my belt. "Who the hell's on the intercom?" No response. I ran to the front desk where the controls were. The light wasn't even on. Nobody had activated it. Kayla came jogging up behind me. "You okay?" I must have looked pale. "Someone just said my name through the speakers," I said. Like, really said it. She frowned. "Weird. Maybe it's Noah screwing with you. He's in the freezer section." I wanted to believe that, but Noah didn't even know how to access the PA system. Only managers could, and ours, Dean, had left at midnight. 2 nights later, I caught sight of him. I was hauling a pallet of paper towels down aisle 19 near the loading dock. The air back there always smelled like cardboard and cold metal. The motion sensors flicked on the lights as I moved, creating a ripple of brightness that followed me. When I looked toward the dock doors, someone was standing there. A man. He was tall, wearing what looked like an old Costco vest, faded blue, the kind they stopped issuing years ago. He stood perfectly still, facing the closed bay door. At first, I thought he was Rick. He liked to stand around smoking outside. But then, the figure slowly turned his head toward me. His skin was pale, almost gray under the fluorescent light. His eyes were dark like empty wells, and his mouth was curled into a smile that didn't reach them. I froze. He lifted his hand, slow and deliberate, and pointed right at me. My body moved before my brain could. I dropped the scanner, bolted, through the next aisle, and didn't stop until I found Noah near the pallets of dog food. There's someone at the dock," I stammered. "He's wearing—" But when we got there, the space was empty. The cameras? Offline again. The monitor said signal lost. Rick swore he hadn't seen anyone leave. "Place is locked tighter than a drum," he said, chewing on a toothpick. "You sure it wasn't one of your ghost stories?" Noah patted my shoulder. "Probably a reflection, Elena. Those stainless doors mess with light." But I knew what I saw. And that night when I got home, I found a folded receipt on my passenger seat. I hadn't noticed it before. It was from Costco, dated that same days under customer name. Someone had typed, "Elena Price, return approved." No one could explain how it got there. By the end of that week, I was running on caffeine and dread. I thought about quitting, but rent was due. On Friday around 2:45 a.m., I went to the break room for a quick snack. Kayla was already there, scrolling on her phone. "You look like hell," she said. "Feel worse," I muttered, collapsing into a chair. "If I see that guy again, I swear I'm walking out." She frowned. "You mean the doc dude? You really saw him?" "Yeah, and he saw me." Kayla lowered her voice. "You know, people say someone died here a few years back. Before we opened. Some contractor got trapped in the compactor behind the dock. They never found all of him." I gave her a look. "You're not helping." She laughed, but it was nervous. "Sorry, just saying. Maybe that's why weird crap happens back there." That was the last normal conversation we ever had. At 3:17 a.m., the power cut out. The whole warehouse went black except for the faint red glow of the emergency lights. The freezers stopped humming. Even the air felt still, thick. Then the intercom hissed again. "You left the door open." It was the same voice. Calm, steady, familiar now. Kayla's head snapped up. "What the hell was that?" Before I could answer, a crash echoed from the back. We ran toward the sound, our flashlights bobbing through the aisles until we reached the dock. One of the big steel doors was wide open, letting in the freezing night air. The sensor lights flickered to life one by one, and there he was, the man, standing in the middle of the loading bay. His vest was soaked dark across the chest, his face blank except for that awful stretched grin. He started walking toward us, slow, dragging steps, one boot scuffing against the floor like he was injured. "Noah," I screamed into my radio. "Doc, get to the dock!" The radio only gave static. Kayla grabbed my arm. "Come on!" We ran through the nearest aisle, ducking behind stacks of paper towels. The sound of his boots echoed, steady and patient. Kayla whispered, "He's following us." "Oh God, he's—" A loud thud cut her off. When I turned, Kayla was gone. Just gone. Her flashlight lay on the ground, beam rolling across the floor. "Kayla?" I whispered. "Please answer me." Silence. The lights flickered once, twice. Then, on the far end of the aisle, I saw her, standing still, her back to me. "Kay?" I said, inching closer. She didn't respond. When she turned around, her eyes were wide and unfocused, her mouth hanging slightly open like she wanted to say something, but couldn't. Then she smiled, that same wrong, empty smile, and whispered, "You left the door open." I ran until my legs burned. The next thing I remember is waking up outside in the parking lot, dawn light bleeding over the horizon. My car door was open, my keys on the ground. The cops said they found me unconscious near the exit around 5:30. No sign of forced entry, no missing workers. They said Kayla must have gone home early, even though her car was still in the lot. When I told them what I saw, the officer just sighed. "Ma'am, we reviewed the security footage. You were alone the entire night. But that wasn't true. I saw the man. I heard him." And when they handed me back my belongings, there was something extra in the evidence bag. A crumpled piece of paper from a Costco receipt printer. In faint black ink, it read, "See you next shift." It's been 2 months since that night. I moved back to Oregon, staying with my sister for a while. I tried to convince myself it was stress, lack of sleep, grief twisting my brain. But every night I wake up around 3:17 a.m., the exact time the power went out. And somewhere in the dark, my phone buzzes with an unknown number. No message, just a photo. Always the same one. A wide, dim aisle lit by flickering white lights, and at the far end of it, him, still smiling, still pointing at me. Last night, I got another envelope in the mail. No return address. Inside was a Costco name badge. Mine. The plastic was cracked, and someone had scratched 3 words into the back. "Do not close." I threw it in the trash, but when I woke up this morning, it was sitting on my kitchen counter. And I swear on my father's grave, the faint hum of a freezer was coming from somewhere in the apartment. Now I leave all the lights on. I don't sleep past midnight, but sometimes when everything's quiet, I still hear that voice, soft and patient, just behind me. "You left the door open," and every time I check, every time the door's still closed. But one day I know I'll find it open again, and when that happens, I think he'll finally come inside. It was just after 3 a.m. when I pulled into the Costco parking lot. The place looked dead quiet, the kind of silence that made the whole world feel paused. My breath fogged up the windshield as I sat there for a second, sipping the last of my gas station coffee. 3rd night in a row working overtime, and I could already feel it in my bones. My name's Rachel, and I've been working the night shift at the Costco in Everett, Washington for about 8 months now. It's not glamorous, but it pays the bills. My fiancé Tyler works construction and leaves early every morning, so the night shift sort of works for me. Keeps the apartment quiet when I get home. Keeps my mind busy. But lately, I'd started to hate the quiet. There was something about being in a place so big, so empty, that messes with your head. I swiped my badge at the employee entrance, and the heavy metal door buzzed open. The warehouse greeted me with its usual chill, the smell of concrete and cardboard, the faint hum of the refrigeration units in the back. The fluorescent lights overhead flickered slightly, like they hadn't fully woken up yet. "Morning, Rach," called out Marta, one of the older ladies who ran the bakery section at night. She was always there before me, kneading dough like she'd been doing it since birth. "Hey, Marta," I said, forcing a smile. "Smells good already," she grinned. "Gotta make something sweet to get through this shift." I laughed softly, grabbed my scanner gun, and headed toward frozen foods. That was my zone tonight. Frozen chicken, pizzas, veggies. Nothing exciting, but at least it kept me near the back where it was quieter. The silence of Costco at night is weird. You get used to it, but it's never comfortable. Your footsteps echo in ways they shouldn't. The aisles stretch on forever, and sometimes if you stand still too long, you start to swear you hear someone breathing nearby. Not loud, not obvious, just enough to make your skin crawl. That night, it felt worse than usual. By 3:40 a.m., I was already on my 3rd pallet. I'd pushed the jack halfway down aisle 24 when I noticed something strange. Someone was standing at the end of the aisle. A man, tall, wearing a dark hoodie and jeans, facing away from me, looking at the freezers like he was trying to make up his mind about ice cream. At first, I thought it was one of the new temps, but no one on my shift wore a hoodie. Company rule. Everyone wore the red Costco vest. "Hey," I called, half joking. "You know we're closed, right?" He didn't turn around. Didn't even move. "Sir?" I tried again. Nothing. I frowned. Maybe he was on break and had his earbuds in. But as I walked closer, something felt off. The way he was standing, completely still, not shifting his weight or anything, like he was holding his breath. I stopped about 20 feet away. "You can't be in here, man. Store's closed." He turned his head slightly, just enough for me to see the side of his face. His eyes looked wrong, too glassy, too wide. And then he whispered something. I couldn't make it out. What was that? I asked. He said it again, a little louder this time. You shouldn't talk to me. I froze. Excuse me? Now he turned fully toward me. His face was pale, almost gray under the fluorescent lights. His lips moved slowly, like he was picking each word carefully. They said you'd come tonight. I took a step back. Who did? He didn't answer. He just smiled, a small, lifeless curve, and walked away, his boots echoing down the next aisle. I stood there for what felt like forever, my scanner still in my hand. My heart was pounding so hard it felt like I could hear it in my ears. When I finally worked up the nerve to look down the next aisle, he was gone. I went straight to Marta. Hey, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. Did anyone come in recently? Like a guy in a hoodie? She looked up from the dough. At 3 in the morning? No. You sure it wasn't one of the restockers? I don't think so. He wasn't wearing a vest. She frowned. You okay, honey? You look pale. I'm fine, I lied. Just tired, I guess. But I wasn't. Fine. I couldn't shake his voice from my head. They said you'd come tonight. Who the hell was they? The rest of the shift dragged on painfully slow. Every sound made me jump. The squeak of the freezer doors, the buzz of a forklift, even the radio chatter from the loading dock. By the time 6 a.m. rolled around, I was counting the minutes until I could clock out. But right before my shift ended, I had to do one last thing. Take the trash to the back dumpster near the loading dock. The dock area was half lit, the kind of lighting that makes every shadow look alive. The big bay doors were closed, and the metal walls seemed to hum from the cold outside air. I grabbed the trash bag, hauled it toward the back, and pushed open the door to the dumpster area. That's when I saw him again, standing by the dumpsters. Same hoodie, same glassy eyes. I gasped and stumbled back, nearly dropping the trash bag. What the hell do you want? I shouted, my voice cracking. He tilted his head, and I realized something was wrong with his face. It looked blurred, like my eyes couldn't focus on it right. You shouldn't be here, he said softly. My breath hitched. You're the one who shouldn't be here. He took a step closer, and my body moved on instinct. I slammed the door shut and ran. When I burst back into the warehouse, Marta was there with 2 other workers. Rachel, what's wrong? There's a guy outside by the dumpsters. He's not supposed to be here. Marta's expression changed. Stay. Here, I'll call security. But when security came and checked the back area, there was no one there. No footprints in the frost, nothing. I went home shaken. Tyler was already gone for work, so the apartment was empty. I locked every door, pulled the blinds, and tried to sleep. But I kept hearing noises. Scratches, faint tapping, maybe just the wind. Maybe. When I finally drifted off, I dreamed of the man's face. Except in the dream, he was standing in my living room, whispering, They said you'd come tonight. I woke up drenched in sweat. The next night, I told my supervisor, Brent, about it. He laughed at first. Maybe you were seeing things, Rach. Long hours can mess with your head. But when I insisted, his smile faded a bit. You're not the first one who said something weird happens around here. That got my attention. What do you mean? He scratched his chin. Couple months back, before you started, a guy named Alex worked night shift. Real quiet guy. He quit out of nowhere. Didn't even come pick up his last check. Said someone was watching him in the aisles. Same thing you're describing. My stomach dropped. Did they ever find out who it was? Brent shrugged. Nope. Cameras didn't catch anything. That night, I kept my head down, trying not to think about it. But near the end of my shift, something strange happened again. As I passed by the freezer section, the lights flickered, and for a split second, I saw him reflected in the glass door. Standing right behind me, I spun around. No one was there. The reflection lingered, though, just faintly visible, like a ghost image burned into the glass. My heart felt like it stopped. I backed away slowly, not taking my eyes off it until it faded completely. I dropped my scanner. It clattered loudly on the floor, echoing across the aisle. And then, a voice. Low, close. right by my ear. "Don't leave yet," I screamed and ran toward the front of the store. Marta and Brent came rushing over asking what happened, but I couldn't explain. The words just wouldn't come out. The next day, I almost didn't come in. Tyler begged me to call in sick, said maybe I needed rest. But I had bills to pay, and honestly, I needed to prove to myself it was all in my head. When I arrived that night, the warehouse looked normal again, calm, empty. I almost felt silly for being scared until I saw the note. It was taped to my locker. A scrap of receipt paper written in black marker. "You came again." I stood there frozen, staring at it. My hands started to shake. I ripped it down, ran straight to Brent, and shoved it in his face. This was on my locker. He frowned, reading it. "Is this a prank? Do I look like I'm joking?" He sighed. "I'll check the cameras. Go start your section." I didn't want to, but I forced myself back to the aisles. For hours, nothing happened. Then, just before 5 a.m., I heard it again. That whisper. Coming from the end of aisle 24, "You came again." My flashlight beam trembled as I aimed it down the aisle. And there he was. Closer this time. His face pale as paper. His mouth slightly open. His eyes black like empty wells. "Why are you here?" I managed to choke out. He tilted his head. "Because you never left." Something inside me snapped. "What do you want from me?" He smiled slowly. "To remember." Then the lights above us blew out, one by one. Pop, 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 until the whole aisle was swallowed by darkness. I ran. I didn't care where. I ran until I saw the emergency exit and pushed it open, spilling into the freezing night air. When the cops came, they found nothing. Again, no man on the cameras. No footprints, not even a trace of me opening the emergency door. But they did find something near the freezer section. A discarded Costco name tag. Old, scratched, almost unreadable. Alex. I quit 2 days later. Packed my things, told Brent I couldn't do it anymore. He didn't argue, just nodded slowly like he already knew this was coming. A week passed. I started sleeping better. I tried to forget. But one night after dinner, I stopped by Costco with Tyler to pick up groceries. Daylight, people everywhere. It felt safe, until we reached the frozen aisle, and I saw it. On the glass door of the freezer, faint but unmistakable, written in the condensation from the cold. "You came again." Tyler didn't notice. He was checking the shopping list, but I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. Then I saw him, standing at the end of the aisle, dark hoodie, pale face, watching, smiling, waiting. I never thought a place like Costco could feel haunted. I've been working the overnight restock shift for almost 2 years now. Most people think it's boring, just unloading pallets, cutting open boxes, and lining up bulk toilet paper like clockwork. But for me, it was peaceful. The store closed at 9:30 p.m., and by 10 the customers were gone. After that, it was just the hum of the freezers, the echo of pallet jacks, and the low murmur of my co-workers talking about random stuff to pass the time. My name's Jenna Morales, 29, originally from Portland, Oregon. I moved to Idaho 6 months ago after a rough breakup and took this job to get back on my feet. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid the rent and kept me busy. Busy enough to forget things I didn't want to think about. The warehouse always had this weird stillness, after midnight, the kind of quiet that made every sound, every creak, every rolling cart feel sharper than it should. I used to plug in my earbuds and listen to music while I worked, but after last week's incident, I can't bring myself to do that anymore. It started on a Wednesday night, the slowest shift of the week. I was working in aisle 14, the cleaning, supplies section, stacking cases of detergent. The fluorescent lights above flickered every so often, which wasn't unusual. That building was old, but that night, the air felt heavy, like the air before a thunderstorm. My co-worker, Riley, was working a few aisles down, humming to herself. I remember her saying something like, "Hey Jenna, you good?" And I just waved her off, smiling. Everything was normal. Then I heard it. Footsteps. Slow, deliberate, coming from the far end of the aisle. I figured it was one of the guys from Produce Maybe Tyler goofing around again. He had a habit of sneaking up on people and scaring them when he was bored. So I called out, "Not funny, Ty. I swear if you jump out, I'm gonna chuck a box at you." No answer. I waited, listening. The footsteps stopped. I leaned around the corner. Nothing. Just endless shelves of bulk detergent and mops under white light. Then I heard the sound again. But this time, it wasn't footsteps. It was breathing. Low, steady breathing just on the other side of the shelf. "Hello?" I said, my voice catching. Silence. I took a few steps back. Riley appeared at the end of the aisle looking confused. "You okay?" "Did you hear that?" I asked. She frowned. "Hear what?" "The breathing. Someone's over there." She rolled her eyes. "Girl, you need sleep. Nobody's here but us and Tyler." But when Tyler came walking out from the loading dock 10 minutes later, laughing about something on his phone, I knew it hadn't been him. The next night I showed up early, thinking maybe I was just tired before. Paranoia can do weird things to your brain when you work under bright lights for 8 hours. I even brought a thermos of coffee and told myself to relax. But then something happened that made me wish I'd never gone back. Around 3:20 a.m., I went to drop off broken down boxes behind the freezers. The back corridor was dimmer than the rest of the store. Half the bulbs were dead. I remember pushing the cart toward the compactor when I noticed something near the emergency exit door. A man. He was standing perfectly still, facing the metal door, wearing what looked like a Costco jacket. At first I thought it was just another worker, maybe new, but his posture was wrong. His shoulders were stiff, his head tilted slightly down, and he wasn't moving. "Hey," I called, forcing a laugh. "You lost or something?" No reaction. I walked closer, the sound of my boots echoing. The closer I got, the more my stomach twisted. Something about him didn't feel right. His jacket wasn't company issued. It was older, darker. The logo was almost scraped off. And when he turned around slowly, I froze. His face was pale, like he hadn't seen sunlight in weeks. His eyes looked unfocused, but somehow locked on mine. And then, without a word, he smiled. Not the kind of smile you give someone in greeting. It was wide, wrong, like his face didn't know how to do it properly. I backed up. "Sir, you're not supposed to be here," I said, my voice trembling. "You need to leave." He didn't move. He just kept smiling. I turned and ran. When I got to the front office, I slammed the door open, yelling for Riley and Tyler. They came running, thinking someone had gotten hurt. I tried to explain, this man by the back exit standing there. But when we went back together, he was gone. Not a trace of him. The door was still locked from the inside. The cameras in that section had glitched. Again. That's what the security manager said when he checked. Probably a transient who slipped. "In," he said, waving it off. It happened sometimes. But that didn't explain the way he smiled at me, or the way my name badge went missing the next day. By the third night, I was on edge. Every flicker of light, every echo sounded like someone moving. I tried to keep busy, stocking cereal and avoiding the back aisles. But around 4 a.m., the intercom clicked on. A soft hiss, then a whisper. It said my name. "Jenna." I froze. The voice was slow, drawn out, distorted by static. I turned toward the ceiling speakers, heart pounding. "Who is this?" I shouted. "This isn't funny." The intercom crackled again, then went silent. Riley looked at me like she'd seen a ghost when I told her. "You sure it wasn't someone from the front desk?" "There's nobody there," I said. They all clocked out at 1. We called the manager, Brett, who checked the system. The intercom wasn't even on. He tried to convince me it was feedback from the radios. I wanted to believe him. God, I did. But then something happened that turned my fear into pure panic. At 4:30, the power went out. All at once, every light blinked off, and the hum of the freezers died. The silence that followed was suffocating. I heard Riley swear somewhere near the front, and Tyler's flashlight clicked on from across the store. The emergency lights came on a few seconds later, dim, reddish. I pulled out my phone, trying to call the manager again, when I saw movement in the aisle ahead. Someone was gliding between the shelves. "Riley?" I whispered. "No, answer." The figure stopped at the end of the aisle. Even in the low red light, I could see the outline of that same old jacket. My throat tightened. I slowly stepped backward, but then his voice came low and distorted, like he was speaking from underwater. "You left the door open." I couldn't breathe. My hand shook so hard my phone slipped from my grip and clattered to the floor. The sound made the figure jerk its head toward me. Then it started walking faster. I ran. I don't remember how I made it to the break room. I just remember slamming the door, locking it, and pressing my back against it, shaking. The sound of footsteps outside the door faded after a minute. When the lights finally came back on, Riley burst in, saying the power grid had tripped because of a freezer malfunction. Nobody else had seen the man. Nobody but me. That morning, I sat in my car until the sun came up. My phone buzzed. An unknown number. The message read, "You shouldn't have run." Attached was a photo. It was me, taken from behind, inside, the store. The timestamp was 4:33 a.m. My hands went numb. I showed the picture to the police, but they said the number couldn't be traced. The security footage from that night? Corrupted. Every camera feed between 4:25 and 4:40 was just static. They promised to look into it, but I never heard back. I didn't want to go back to work, but rent was due, and my pride wouldn't let me quit. So I went in one last time, a Friday night. Only 3 of us that shift, me, Riley, and Brett. Everything seemed fine at first. Too fine. The air was still, the lights steady. But sometime after 2 a.m., I noticed something off in the reflection of the freezer glass. A shape behind me. I spun around. Nothing. I told myself it was nerves. But then Riley came rushing over, pale as a sheet. "Jen, come look at this." She led me to the front security desk. The monitors showed every camera in the building, except one. The loading dock feed was live, but there was something standing just outside the bay doors. A man. Still. Facing the camera. Same jacket. Same posture. Brett radioed for the night patrol. While he talked, the man moved closer. Step by step. The camera crackled, then went black. We heard a loud clang from the back, like metal hitting concrete. Brett grabbed his flashlight and told us to stay put. He disappeared down the hall toward the dock. 5 minutes passed, then 10. No sound. "Should we go check?" Riley whispered. Before I could answer, the intercom clicked again. A man's voice, calm, almost gentle, filled the store. "Jenna, come to the loading dock. I found something of yours." Riley covered her mouth. "Oh my God." I shook my head. No, we're leaving. We ran for the front exit." It wouldn't open. Locked from the outside. Panic surged through me like ice. I grabbed my phone to call 911, but the screen froze. The signal dead. The lights flickered once, twice, then went out completely. Somewhere down the hall, metal scraped against concrete. Closer. Closer. "Riley," I whispered. "Run." She took off toward the emergency stairwell while I ducked behind a stack of pallets. The footsteps drew nearer, slow, deliberate. My heart was hammering so hard I thought he could hear it. Then I saw him. That same face, that same awful grin, illuminated by the faint red glow of the exit sign. He was holding something. My old name badge. I don't remember screaming, but Riley told me later she heard it echo through the whole store. By the time police arrived, the building was empty. Brett was found unconscious near the dock. No memory of what happened. Riley quit the next morning, so did I. It's been 3 months since that night. I moved back to Portland. I got a new job, far from any warehouse or night shift. I tell myself it's over, that it was some sick pranty,